is that she just carries within her a sanctuary, and she has such clarity and such power, and that I'm just grateful that we get to hear from you today. And she is a ordained minister of Science and Mind, and she's also a master teacher of A Course in Miracles, among many other things that actress, and many other things that she has in her spiritual toolbox and her creative toolbox. So I know that we're in for a treat today, so please help me welcome Rev Celeste Frazier.
Wow, she made me sound good, huh?
God made you good, I just agreed with her.
I have to lift this a bit. Well, Maureen wanted me to come to talk to you about, some of the things that were going on in the world, and sometimes we have indications that, things are not what they appear. And that's generally my experience. That's generally how I approach things, because I am reminded of a story where there was a farmer, and he had a son, and they had this farm, and they were doing well working together, and something happened with the farmer's son, and he broke his leg, and the whole village went, "Oh, that's too bad." And the farmer would say, "Who's to say what's good or what's bad?" And then, a war came, and they took all of the young men, and his son couldn't go because he was injured. And so they were like, "Oh, that's too bad." And he says, "No, I think it's pretty good, but who's to say what's good and what's bad?" And so there were many things that occurred when the crops were not really producing the way they wanted them to, and the neighbors would say, "Oh, that's too bad." And he'd say, "Well, who's to say what's good or what's bad?" And as the story went on, you got to see that there were so many blessings that would come, and they would often be cloaked by challenges. They would often be cloaked by obstacles that we perceive to be obstacles. They would even sometimes be cloaked with things that we consider to be attack. But in truth, there was always this guiding love, this guiding presence, this guiding substance that was conspiring for our good all along. And so what I was thinking about as we've been looking at all of these events that's been going on in terms of the police, and what's been going on in terms with people coming up in body bags, and all kinds of violence occurring, and a lot of people being disturbed. But there's something that is coming up for clearing. There's something that's coming up for healing. And there's something that's coming up for transformation for us all. And it's easy to kind of dismiss people who are politicians and, call them all kinds of names. But there's a greater invitation, I believe, that's going on right now. And I wanted us to be with that so we could explore that a little bit. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Could you explain it a little more before we agree?
You can withhold and then let me know if you do or not. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can take this hearing your hearts. I call the topic Hearing Your Heart's SEO. A lot of people were hearing SEO from late 90s in the computer field and search engine optimization. But I said, I'm going to say that SEO is standing for silencing ego's overreach. Because a lot of times we're saying that we're listening, but we're really just kind of observing. And most of the time what we're observing are the effects. We're looking at what flashes across the news. We're looking at what's happening, online. We're looking at what's happening on TV, etc. But, we're hard of hearing sometimes when it comes to God. Sometimes we're just tuned in to everything else. And sometimes we do have to shut down the radio. Sometimes we do have to shut down the computer. Sometimes we do have to turn off the television and listen to what's going on within us, because when we do, we have a greater understanding for the next time that those things come across our screen called life, that we can be able to grasp more easily. There was a guy who said he had a colonoscopy, and just before he dozed off, the nurse came in and put a can of Bud Light down right in front of the doctor. This must be me going under or something, whatever. I said, oh no, the doctor's having a cool one during my procedure. But I soon realized that the nurse had a hearing problem when the doctor turned to the nurse and said with a big red face full of anger, no, I need a butt light. So this is not inappropriate. Illustrates the importance of good hearing. But if I'm hard of hearing, I might distort something that I think I heard that might not be in alignment with my truth. And I'm interested in being tuned into my truth. How about you?
Amen.
Yes.
Very good. Sometimes it's convenient to be hard of hearing, particularly maybe when you get one of those honey-do lists. Huh? What'd you say? Go to the store, lay down the mulch, wash and wax the car, get the kids to school, rinse the videos, and finish the rest of the dishes. And what the husband hears is, go, lay down, and get some rest. Or sometimes we leave it to someone else to interpret what is being said. And that's very dangerous, because you never know what people's intentions are. It was a deaf man who stole the daily take from a mobster bookie. And it was a tremendous amount of cash. And the mobsters catch him, but the deaf man had already hidden the money. And the mobsters can't communicate with the man because, guy can't hear. So they get someone to know sign language. So the interpreter asks the deaf man where the money is hidden. And the man refuses to admit where he has stashed the money. And so the mobsters that lost the loot smack the deaf man around, and the interpreter asks again and again, and the man refuses to state where the money is. Finally, the mobsters have had enough, and they pull a pistol and threaten to shoot the deaf man unless he tells them where the money is hidden. Even though they'll lose the money, the deaf man won't be able to spend it, and he'll be dead. So, if he tells them where the money is, they'll let him go. So the interpreter explains the situation to the man. And the deaf man responds, finally. And he says, are you sure no one else knows where the money is hidden? This is the interpreter, doing the sign language, whatever, to the guy. And so the deaf man's like, yeah, nobody else knows where the money is hidden. So then the interpreter turns to the mobster and says, he says you don't have the guts to shoot him. Because sometimes somebody wants to get in the way of your good because they have a belief that their good is not available. Generally, when we're in what we call in A Course in Miracles attack mode, is when someone is perceiving that they need to defend themselves. Somebody's going to do something to hurt me, or somebody might hurt me. I've got to do something first before they do it to me. And so a lot of that becomes the way we show up in the world, and because that becomes the way that we show up in the world, then there becomes more reason for defense, and there become more frequent attacks. And so this is how we go. But when we're listening, when we're hearing the heart, we're hearing divine intelligence. So I'm calling the heart divine intelligence. And I'm saying that the soul is the way the intelligence gets to the head by means of spirit. So often we start from head and then try to get to heart. That's a much harder journey. But when you start from divine intelligence, when you start from the essence of love, and then take that love into your thoughts, what you now perceive at the level of divine vision is more expansive and greater than you could have ever imagined on your own. Because you have the love force that is supporting you and thrusting you into a greater awareness that you can come up in your brilliant head, no matter how smart you think you are. So Ernest Holmes tells us that love is at the center of man's being, and the calm, continuous pulsations of life are governed by love. I would agree, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Because when we're thinking about the calmness, that usually doesn't come when we're in our fear. You know, when we're thinking about the calmness, that usually doesn't come when we're angry about something. When we think about the continuous pulsations of life, when we're constantly jerking and hesitating and moving back, that doesn't feel like love. That feels like fear is having its full sway with us. But we know something better because we know about the essence of love. And I think when we are hearing in our hearts, we are feeling into life. And it's critical for us to be able to feel into life and not simply think into life, because we can trust our emotions. I don't mean necessarily our human emotions as much as I mean our divine feelings. And I'll explain a little bit about what the differentiation is in a moment. But what I will say is that when we are trusting those feeling tones, that's when we're in touch with our divine qualities. That's when we're in touch with that divine love that is bringing us peace, that is bringing us joy, that is bringing us freedom, that is bringing us truth. And when we're in tune with that, we're not shaken by things like jealousy. We're not shaken by things like any kind of fear, any kind of misery. You know, we don't think about lack because we're so full of love that it seems, and it is the truth, that everything is already here right now. So when we are feeling into our lives, we're not threatened by those thoughts of separation. So many times we think that we are separate from God. We think we are here and that God is somewhere off, way up there that we can't even get to, and oh my God, it's so far, can God even see me down here somewhere? But what I know is that the presence of God lives, moves, and has its beingness in me. And so I don't have I have only a short distance, if any distance at all, because as they say, it's closer than our neck vein or our hands and feet. But, you know, I was listening to Marianne Williamson the other night, and she has this Wednesday thing that she does. She's another Course in Miracles master. I didn't know I was in the master category. Thank you so much. But, you know, she was saying, you know, activism is not something outside of spirituality. You know, activism is part of your inner compass that knows that something better is possible. So when you call for us to be better than we have been behaving, that is your divine love feeling that is informing you that you are better than this. You are able to show up in a better way than you're showing up right here, right now. And it is up to us to be available to feel what God is presenting us with in terms of those things. Sometimes we call that intuition. And I like to break it down as it with a capital I, being God itself. The Course in Miracles says, only my condemnation injures me. And, you know, it's bad enough. You have these secret, horrible thoughts about yourself and these things that you say about yourself. Oh, you're stupid, or you're ugly, or you're looking old, or you're looking fat. All these things that you say to yourself that do not portray self-love, but kind of are attacking yourself. in very non-compassionate ways. And it's one thing if you stop there, because you really can't, because you are all there is, because you are an individualized expression of God. So then when you knowingly start to do it on other people, you might take a presidential candidate, for example. You might say, he's terrible, he shouldn't say these things, and, I can't believe it, and what is going on with the world, and all this. So what's happening is, as the Course says, my condemnation keeps my vision dark. And through my sightless eyes, I cannot see the visions of my glory. There's something that is happening here behind this person who is the Republican nominee, who is saying things that are not in alignment with American principle and certainly not in alignment with spiritual principle. But here's what's happening. It's mobilizing all of our negative thoughts and energy. It's mobilizing all of our disdain about a lot of things that we've been holding in. And he gets to be the sacrificial lamb. Imagine that. He gets to be the sacrificial lamb that gets to be the focus of all of our venom, all of our discouragement, all of our disgust, and all of our anger. But President Obama tried to inform us before his presidency, during his elections, during, his whole terms, both terms, yes, we can. Because he knew that there was something greater that we could do, but we could only do it together. But when we start to isolate each other, when we start to perceive that that person is not like me, they don't believe what I believe, they don't look like me, they don't think like me, they are not to be around me, I want them to go away, I want them to be destroyed. So what we're doing is that we're attacking an aspect of ourselves rather than approaching this opportunity that we have for healing those aspects of ourselves that are being brought up. Anybody here ever do a detox?
Yes.
Detoxes bring up stuff that needs to leave. Yes?
Yes.
So, we can understand that there's a detox that's going on right now.
Yes.
There's a detox going on in the police departments all around the United States. There's a detox going on in our political system. There's a detox going on around us, not only in this continent, but around the world. You saw Britain left Europe. I mean, who doesn't identify England with Europe, for goodness sake? There's something that's being broken up and splintered off so that it can dissolve back into the nothingness from whence it came. That's silencing ego's overreach, because we're so in the habit of reaching back to the past. Remember when they did that? They're gonna do it again. Or they're doing the same thing, nothing's changed. And this mindset continues to perpetrate so nothing changes. And we're like, we want change, we want change. It's like, really? Why don't you start with you? Because we have an opportunity now to transform our way of thinking, because we're being brought new information. We're being brought new situations that have not occurred before, or situations that have been going on for decades now apparent to us because of video cameras. Right? So here we have an opportunity to say, wait a minute, let me put my brain on hold. Let me stop thinking the way that I've been thinking all of this time. I think there's some new information that I need to bring into my awareness. Because anytime I'm going back in the past and talking about who done me wrong, I'm not in present moment awareness. And I can't be present when I am in the past. when I get anxious about what might happen, if I win that lottery ticket, if I get to marry that person, if this will happen, if that'll happen, when I'll get my ship coming in, I'm not being in present moment awareness. I can't get there except from here. I can't get there but from being in present moment awareness. And so I have an opportunity to explore my own love language. Do you know what your love language is? You know the book, The 5 Love Languages? Some of you do. You can even take the quiz online if you don't want to read the book, but it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you can know. No, I'm an affirmations person. I got like 10 points on affirmations. I want you to tell me how fabulous I am, I want you to tell me when I'm doing good. Because then I want to keep doing that. So many times employers, not yours I'm sure, make the mistake of telling you what you did wrong. So okay, that's what you're in your head. I did that wrong. So all I'm thinking about is what I did wrong. How is there room for anything for me to do anything different when all of my focus on what I did wrong is on what I did wrong? So we have an opportunity to silence the ego that says, I'm not enough, or I'm all that, by saying, you know what? I can say, as God said, I am that I am, and know that as a child of God, what that means is I am pretty awesome, but I get to show up as awesomeness. And so here we have in this particular topic, hearing your hearts and silencing ego's overreach. An opportunity to do as the Course reminds us, to say, I am not a body, I am free, because I am still as God created me. Because God created us out of its substance, male and female created, we them. So we know there's a divine feminine energy as well as a divine masculine energy that makes up the deity that is God, right? And because we know there has to be a masculine and feminine for any creation to come forth into creation. And that's only because one woman who was creating everything by herself got beside herself and they had to check her. And that's what the Gnostics say. But, whatever that energy is that is around us right now, we get to be a part of shifting it by shifting ourselves. There's a song called You Are the Universe, and it's true. Because just like you have pinpoints in your hands, you do reflexology that correlates with the different organs in your body, or in your feet that correlates with different organs in your body, and you use it for healing processes. We are like those points in the universe that when we are activating certain vibrations, that gets to affect the whole body of life itself. That's how important we are. And so while we can know that society is in the process of its own cleansing and detox, what Krishnamurti told us was that it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Okay. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So, doctor, we really want to call upon ourselves as the healers that we are to say, no, I'm not adjusting to this sickness. I'm not going to adjust to that. I'm going to choose my well-being. And when I choose my well-being, I'm choosing your well-being, because one does not go without the other. And so, if you're living after the world's opinion, that's fine, but that's not why we're here. We're here to listen to our own heart. We have to be led by our divine guidance, our truth. We have to hear our heart so that God can reveal to each one of us what is ours to do. And hearing my mind chatter is simply the confusion of the world bouncing back at me. If I'm not having a new thought, even if I'm in my meditation, if I'm not having a new thought but an old thought, then I need to shut down all thoughts, period, and be still and know something greater than is being represented before me. So, unless I'm willing to be still and get my own divine download, then I just continue to carry the current of the race thought. And the race thought is simply what everybody's been thinking, which is really not contributing to our up-leveling. And since we know that we're here for our soul's evolution, it's time for something else to happen, you think?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this whole SEO thing, this search engine optimization, and I thought, they came up with all this stuff, and they used to bug people that had businesses. We can really get more traffic to your website. We can do this and that. And they would always come with these really big price tags, right? And I would ask people who were experts about that stuff. I'm not, but they were like, no, you don't need to spend that money. Okay, thank you. Because generally, what would happen is that, I want to be seen. I want more hits. But what do you want people to see about you? Once you get everybody there looking at you, what do they see? And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting question, because now that I've been found, or now that you got love, what are you going to do with it? It's like, okay, there is something about me that truly needs to release what I don't want to be seen, so that when I do finally get people in the place where they're able to see me, they see my beauty and my willingness to release my warts, my willingness to let go of those things that don't make my beauty so apparent. So the Course in Miracles says, I am God's son, be still my mind and think a moment upon this. Think about what that means to be a child of God. When you're a child of your mother or your father, you have got their genes. You got spiritual DNA. You got love DNA. You got joy DNA. You got peace DNA. You got freedom DNA. You got harmony DNA. You got so much of the good in you that it's time for you to claim it. And you can, be spiritual all you want, but if you're not willing to allow yourself to be open and available to what God has to say, you're just showing off for other people something that you want them to perceive about you, and you're not really at the state that you think that they think you are, if that makes sense. There was a monk, there was a guy, he wanted to become a monk. And so he went to the abbey, and they let him in, and they said, well, you gotta have a vow of silence, and you can only say 2 words every 3 years. Some people have a real problem with that. But okay, so after the first 3 years, the abbot came to the would-be monk, and he says, okay, what are your 2 words? Food cold. So the abbot made sure that his meals weren't cold. Then another 3 years went by, and the abbot came to him and said, what are your 2 words? Robe dirty. So the abbot ordered his robe to be washed, and then another few years went by, and the abbot came to him and said 2 words, bed hard. So, we got him a better mattress and everything. So another 3 years came by, and he's like, okay, what are your 2 words? I quit. Well, the abbot replied, I'm not surprised, you've been complaining since you got here. How much time do we spend complaining to God about what's not right? And how often do we take the opportunity to really speak words of truth? We can mimic anybody. Yeah, you know. But even if you mimic wise people, it's not the same as what you know in your heart. Well, I have a couple of students who've been in here, and they know, when I'm teaching, I'm like, I'm not interested in your jargon. There's like the people who will like quote the Bible and tell you which book and verse it came from, the line and number and all of that. And then they'll walk around clueless as to what the nature of God is. There are people who are, of any different religion, But, in hearing your heart, surely you know that Muslim people don't need to be kept out of the United States. In hearing your heart, surely you know that a wall between us and Mexico is not going to keep our darkest fears from entering our minds. Surely when you're listening to your heart, you're able to be in touch with those things that are calling for more beauty, more love, more peace, more joy. I am a diversity trainer for the Centers for Spiritual Living. I've been going all over the country doing diversity workshops, doing conversations, as well as going to our centers, looking at what does oneness mean, how does that look against, words like diversity and inclusion. What does that have to do with spiritual principle? And then I develop after Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, et cetera, another workshop called Listening from Love. And listening from love is simply about us sitting around a table and being open and available to how we're feeling about issues like race, issues like violence between the races, issues like brutality, and issues like unfair laws and the violation of laws by people who are there to enforce them. And Maureen will talk to you more about what's going to happen with that, with this community. But here we have an opportunity. There's a lot of people that are awake now, that are no longer willing to think the same old thoughts, that are willing to hear their heart saying, this is not right. I need something better. I want to be better. And when you do listen from love with the intention of being loved, showing up as God's child, showing up as someone endowed with an abundance of qualities, and showing up as someone who is powerful enough to make a difference. Each of us are those powerful agents of change. Each of us are when we are hearing our hearts. I invite you to not only hear your heart, but to listen to it, and to be willing to listen to other hearts as well. Namaste. Namaste.
So what do you think? I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, or you can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter at SpeakEasySpiritualCommunity.com so we can keep the conversation going. Because Speakeasy is all about engaging in engaging conversations. Everything is better when we all share our voice. I'm Maureen Muldoon, your spiritual vixen, reminding you to love more and fear less, and don't forget to laugh. What do you say?